one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Chair.
Could I get a motion to approve the county board minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded
Second.
by Commissioner Jelinski. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any objections? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public Works, Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Morning, Steve.
Appreciate your consideration in arranging the special board meeting. Sometimes the way our work falls out, the schedule that we have is very tight, and to keep things on track, it doesn't always fit with the way the board meetings have been scheduled. But one of the projects that we have going this year is the reconstruction of our County State Aid Highway 43 and 39 in the city of Pierce. It's a pretty complicated project for us in that we have three different entities involved in the Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District, replacing sewer and water lines during the reconstruction. The city of Pierce also is installing a segment of the new trail system and part of their trail plan for the overall city that they've been successful in obtaining outside resources to construct. And then also the reconstruction of the storm sewer and the street itself under our jurisdiction. And so we have a number of things that the board is going to have to authorize in order to put this all together. The city had obtained transportation alternative funds for the construction of the trail. They also, and with our sponsorship, obtained bonding funds to match those TAP funds for the trail construction. The sewer and water construction is local assessments mainly, that is Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District will be utilizing to pay for their share of the cost. And then this county will be using our municipal construction funds, and those won't be enough, and so we'll include regular construction funds to pay the rest of the cost of our portion of the project. We also are requesting with this, so the board is aware of other actions that will be needed to get this all done, that you would authorize myself to enter into an engineering agreement with Short Elliott Henderson for the construction, staking, observation, and inspection of the project as it moves forward. SEH is the city engineer, has done the design on the project. They've collected all the data during the preliminary engineering phase of the project, so they have all of that information. Also, with the fact that we have one of our engineering techs on deployment, I believe this is the most efficient way that we can cover all of the requirements that we have with all the items that you see in the abstract of bid, and also the different funding sources that will be paying for those items. Following the award that the board would take today, then we'll give notice to MnDOT. MnDOT will draft a agreement for the bonding money, and next board meeting, we would bring that in for your action so that we can accept the bonding money for the match of the TAP funds that'll pay for the trail. Both entities, the Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District and the City of Pierce, have acted concurring with the award for the board to make. So on the 7th of April, the Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District met, reviewed the abstract of bids, and passed a resolution concurring with the board, with the county board awarding this project. Last night, the City of Pierce did the same thing. So we had advertised and we accepted proposals. There were 8 proposals that were presented, and the abstract was included. You can see there's a lot of items that'll be tracked during this project in which the contractor will be paid. The city's or the county's portion of this is about 1.2 million of the 2.7. The City of Pierce and Rich Prairie Sewer and Water District, with their funding sources, will pay for the rest. So what we would be asking for initially here is that the board would award this project to the a low bidder of C&L Excavating in the amount of $2,700,112.45. And then we will follow that with the engineering agreement.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Blaine. This is roll call. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may. Steve, now, when you say trail, this bid is part of the trail that goes through Piers? Is that what we're talking about here? Am I off?
With this design, Commissioner, there will be a trail that is constructed on the south side of both CASA 39 and 43. So that always has been a part of how we were developing this project and designing it. It will tie in at Centennial, and then it goes across Trunk Highway 25 to the east to Kamnick, I believe. And then it also carries down a little bit south on Kamnick before it terminates. That's a project that the city of Piers went through a competitive process to obtain federal funds, transportation alternative funds to help pay for.
So again, help me, put me on the right track. This has nothing to do with the Sioux Line Trail at all, really, or does it?
Little bit in
Okay,
that, you know,
that's-
the city of Piers,
Yeah.
their overall comprehensive trail plan ties into the Sioux Line Trail and wraps around. This is a segment of it. They're working to, they have a pretty comprehensive plan, a very good plan. When it's all complete, this is a part of it. Eventually, it will tie into the Sioux Line, and they'll have a good loop around the whole city of a trail.
Right. And when I'm trying to put this all together, Steve, is that, you know, there's federal money's gonna be here, you know, again, we've, probably every other year, we hear about us closing the Sioux Line Trail 1 month out of year. Will this affect and say, okay, you know, you're getting federal money, are they gonna tell us, well, you can't close it for that month, or if you kinda understand that, is this gonna maybe come back and haunt us if this gets tied into the Sioux Line, and then now we got federal money, it's kinda like with the crossing by Blanchard Dam, you know, there's always been,
You know, I guess that would be a concern if we were actually using federal money to do work on the Sioux Line Trail, but this is not that.
right, and that's what you asked that
I think at that point in time, that would be a question that had to be answered, but currently, we're not using any federal money to make any improvements on the Sioux Line
Yeah, and you
Trail.
answered that, thank you.
Anybody else? Steve, just for they had the Safe Routes to School money. That's what's putting that trail in more or less, right? And is the county's not really spending any more money on that than what we would have to tar 34, 39 and 43? Is that,
Okay.
maybe
I
some more.
understand. You know, the Safe Routes to School program has changed over the years. There used to be a federal Safe Routes to School program, and there was a state Safe Routes to School program. The federal one morphed into transportation alternatives, so it was more than just funding for Safe Routes to School. It's for other type of projects that you could propose that would help reduce traffic is kind of what they focus on. It's multimodal type. So they applied for those federal funds, and that's under the transportation alternatives. That pays 80% of the construction of the trail. And all these items that you see here, those have been broke out. What belongs to the road construction, what belongs to sewer and water, what belongs to the trail. They also made an application for the state Safe Routes to School program, which is a bonding program, and they were successful, and they're gonna use those funds to match the federal funds for the construction of the trail. So that's, the city's got most of the cost of their work being from outside resources. Now, for the county, we're picking up where the underground work, the sewer and water work ends, and that's the street construction. And so, I mean, we're obviously gonna be spending more for a new street, a total new street, than we would have if we were just going to do an overlay. But we're making improvements with that. The storm sewer is going to be improved. There's a curb and gutter that is deteriorated in need of repair. structures that need repair. So all those things will be taken care of as a part of the project and are our costs.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does anybody have anything else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski?
I think it's equally as important that we speak to the point that this is a project that's been on the frying pan for a long time. It's not, it just didn't come up today. And as late as last, or April 2nd, I believe it was, when we had a planning meeting at Public Works, we went through this stuff. I mean, line by line, if you will. But previous to that, how long has this been going on, Steve?
3 years probably.
Yeah, it's a long time that we've had this discussion, and finally, we're coming to the point of, well, it's time to get to work, so that's all I've got.
Just one other comment for the board. You know, the revenues that we are going to be using are our county state aid highway funds. Those are separated into two construction accounts, one being regular, which is the rural areas that our county state aid highways run through. The other is the municipal construction account. That municipal construction account is specifically created for work within the small cities, these urban areas. And what we've done in the past is if those funds grow and we don't have a project because the city maybe isn't ready for sewer and water or something like that, we've transferred those funds after a public hearing to our regular construction account so that we could spend them in the rural areas. But we've done that telling the cities that when they have a project, we will work with them to get their project done. Because those funds really were meant to be spent within those cities. So this is a situation where we are gonna be spending our current balance of municipal construction, but we're also gonna be bringing back some of the regular construction funds that were transferred to pay the rest of it, the difference.
Good, thank you for that explanation. Okay, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
And aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
carries.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, then the second request for board action is authorization for the director, Public Works Director, to enter into an agreement with SEH for construction staking inspection.
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion?
I would like to comment that the split on this is about 60-40. It's not all ours. It's about 60% would be county, 40% will be city.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, this is a roll call. Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine? And I, Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, then our third request is the award of a contract for the repair of wing walls on the Siouxland Trail over the Mississippi River. Again, this is a project that has kind of ties in with work that we've been doing on this bridge for a number of years. We made application through the Department of Natural Resources and were successful on obtaining up to $150,000 for the repair of these wing wall caps. So our bids did come in where the split is 75-25, and so we won't be using the whole $150,000 because it did come in at under $200,000, but we received 4 bids with Eagle Construction, the company that's done quite a bit of work on the repair of this structure over the last couple of years, at $163,350 even. They've done good work for us out there. This will be kind of the final repair on the structure itself. There may be some work in stabilizing slopes and that type of thing, but the structure itself, anticipate for quite a while here, this will be the last work that we have to do on that. Our recommendation is that the board would award this to Eagle Construction for that amount.
Could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
We got a motion by Commissioner Blaine,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, for the record, could you explain what ring walls, you did a good job of telling us, but just for the people out there in Never Never Land?
Wing walls are, they're a structural component of the abutments at the end of each structure that holds the earthen embankment back from it washing and collapsing into the stream or the river that you have. So these wing walls are constructed to hold that embankment back so that doesn't happen. Well, these are over 100 years old. They're concrete, made out of concrete materials that has deteriorated over time. And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be taking out that deteriorated concrete and replacing it with rebar and new concrete so that it can continue to hold that embankment back.
Thanks for that explanation.
Okay, this is roll call. This is roll call. Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell?
All right,
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
you have a good week.
Thank you very
Thank you all.
much.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, I did, Greg and Commissioner Blaine and I did attend the Sobieski City Council meeting. I just wanted to maybe provide a little bit of an update there. I think it was a very good meeting that we had, in that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's consultant attended that meeting with the city. And I think they brought up some good issues on how they need to go at this and how they time it and that type of thing with what is going on within the city itself. Commissioner, my belief that it helped for us to push that they met with the city and talked this project through before it started, so I think that was beneficial.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll just comment. I want to say thank you to Steve for being there and for his leadership to the village of Sobieski on identifying some issues that certainly need to be understood by the contractors doing the work on this project, but also the outlining how that construction project will impact the village of Sobieski and the people there and the people of that area. And I think one of the most important points that opened people's eyes is when Steve revealed to them that, we have over 600 vehicles that travel across that stretch of road in Morrison County. And so it's not just people of the village using that road, but there's a lot of people who pass through the village on their way to work in other communities, other parts of the county and beyond. And this disruption will obviously impact their commute and their life for a period of time, and also access to the civic center and the ball fields and the timing of this project and how it will impact the people of Sobieski. And so I think we had a very good discussion about that and a better reveal on the impact to the community. So Steve, thank you, and thank you for allowing me to be with you there at that meeting.
Thanks for coming.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks for that update. Okay, next we'll move on to administrators report.
All right, Mr. Chair, good morning. I have just one action item and a few different points to discuss. The action item is to approve the notice of resignation given on February 23rd from the county recorder, Eileen Holtberg, ending her employment on May 14th. We need to do this for para purposes. She needs to be able to have board action accepting that resignation as an elected official in her office to be able to file that with para to handle her para benefits.
Could I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? I just want to say we thank her very much for all the years of service that she's given us, and that it's hard to see her go, but, well, good luck in whatever she wishes to do.
Yeah, we wish her the best.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, just for future reference, on the planning session on 4/27 was what I was thinking, we'd have that conversation, and you can provide direction on what you'd like to do with that office moving forward, at least to start that conversation. A couple other things. I've forwarded you some information with the ARP, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. there's so much out there, and there's so much continuing to be learned. I was on a call Friday with MMB, the Minnesota Management and Budget Group, which really handled the CARES funding. Their involvement when it comes to local dollars for ARP dollars is still kind of unknown whether or not we'll go through them or whether we'll do that directly. More to come on it. You know, there are certain components of this. I know I was talking with Commissioner Jelinski before the meeting about broadband, about investments with that kind of infrastructure, about housing and the availability for dollars to be invested into those types of situations. Those are some decisions you overall are going to have to make. What I was hoping we could do as I learn more and as information becomes available is maybe, you know, get from you guys some areas of interest that could be dove into a little bit more. Just because those dollars, when they do become available to us, is going to be, it's gonna take some effort, and I think a group effort on developing a plan on how to distribute or how to deal with those funds. Unless somebody else has other thoughts and ideas, I kind of want to continue to keep you five in the loop in different regards, maybe develop some type of committees if there's certain areas that really are of interest, and you know that now versus later, you know, being able to kind of really make sure we pay attention to those is important.
Anybody got any questions?
Mr. Chair, I don't really have any questions, but just to further comment on broadband, I recently had a phone conversation that included myself, Senator Klobuchar, and 3 other commissioners from northern Minnesota. The topic of broadband was apparent. Everybody's got a broadband topic. Lack of, in need for more, et cetera, et cetera. So I obviously don't have a crystal ball, nor do I have broadband knowledge. I know the word, broadband, internet, call it whatever you want to. Don't know how it works, wires through the sky, however it is, but I would like to see that at least as a visited topic.
Anybody else got any comments?
Mr. Chair, maybe that could be something, if I could, Commissioner Jelinski, if I find certain opportunities to learn more about broadband, would you be willing to participate in those discussions? I know CTC did reach out to me already about shovel-ready 2021 projects and what that would look like. I don't know what your thoughts are as a board on that and when to bring that exactly, other than learn more and kind of be aware of what's out there and what the availability is. We still don't know exactly when we're gonna get the funding. So, you know, all of that kind of is up in the air at this point in time, but a lot of questions, more so than answers right now.
To talk about what's going to consume.
I think another big topic is housing, and I don't know how that all relates to this COVID money, but I know after going out to Barrett's and stuff, they said that's one of their biggest thing is housing for people to come to work here. So probably needs to be some of that discussion. I don't know how that works with, you know, if you're giving a contractor money to build something or what. But anyway, housing I think is important.
I think the next call that we have, it was left with having some type of housing call, and maybe if I could get a volunteer or two to join in that to kind of learn as we move forward with it would be great.
I would do that if nobody else wants to, so,
Sounds good.
okay. Anybody got any other questions on that topic? What you're looking for, okay. Keep us updated.
I will do my best. I don't know if Commissioner Lemire has some questions. There was a request from Lake Chaminade, and I have a potential resolution, or if you want to just talk about maybe what you would like us to do moving forward with that.
As I met with them with Rick Rosen and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, he's new on the board. Well, they brought forth a resolution to, and I'm sorry I wasn't prepared for this today, so I'll just wing it, but are you gonna put the resolution up there?
I will.
They brought this resolution forward, being that, you know, they were aware that we were doing that pumping project with the Turn Off the Faucet group, and that we allocated, I don't know how much money we allocated, 200,000 or something for that project. They were thinking, being that we didn't use that money for that project, that maybe we could use that money on their project to assist Todd County with making their ditch 41, keeping their ditch 41 updated and And I just told them that I would bring this to the board, and they kind of wanted to be here and explain their resolution to you. But I guess we can, if you could keep going up, Deb,
Sure.
like there. And they brought up a bunch of issues that it would work hand in hand with the Long Prairie One Watershed, One Plan, and, their plan is to contribute that money, $200,000 to the Todd Ditch Authority to maintain and improve Todd County Ditch 41. And the key on this last one here is upon the award of a construction contract for the Lake Champlain High Water Project. They wouldn't get the money unless they were awarded a construction contract out for their project. And they were just, and I also told them that, that 200,000, we would sell the stuff back for 100,000, so it's actually a $100,000 project. But I wasn't positive where that money came from. I assumed it was from Public Works Reserve Funds, but I wasn't positive. And, I don't know how this works or anything, but they wanted the opportunity to come before you and talk about this.
And I think, Mike, today the question was just, do the commissioners want to dig into this or let this come to the next planning session?
Yep,
That's all we're asking for here.
that's fair.
Are you guys willing, do you guys want to talk about this and see what all the pros and cons and listen to it, or? Okay. Anybody object to that? If not, we'll put it on the next planning session.
And I do think Deb is gonna, look into this deeper, so we're not doing something that we shouldn't be doing.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'll probably have utilized John Kolb, who's worked with us on ditch law, just to make sure everything follows what it is we're supposed to do with that when it comes to funding. And so I just wanted to make sure that was okay with the board, that we do that, move forward with it, and then get them scheduled whenever, whether it be the next planning session or whenever schedules work. We'll have them come forward with at least getting us more information on it. Does that seem like a direction I'm looking at?
So, Mr. Chair, Deb, when you say John Kolb, what do we need him for?
When it comes to funding lake improvement districts, as if you recall from discussions we've had, there's very specific law out there on how to fund lake improvement district costs and how that's assessed or charged back to membership. And whether or not it's appropriate for general funds to be used, or whether there's the hierarchy with funds to be for assessment funds or charge funds to be used for funding of projects. I just want to make sure that what they're proposing is in line with what it is we ought to be doing or can do when it comes to funding those types of things. It's like with ditch laws, as you recall, those costs associated with that are assessed back to those that are determined to be benefited, things like it's that similar type of structure. Just want to make sure it's falling in line with it, because it is different than what it is we've dealt with other.
I think you're referring to a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to have him at a meeting or nothing, but.
Good
you-
point.
And have them review this
Thanks,
before we
Mr.
do
Chair.
that,
You're
yeah.
referring to a phone call.
Yeah.
But, so are we all okay, Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, if I may, and I heard Commissioner Lemire clearly use two different figures. One was 200,000, one was 100,000, understanding that our initial project included selling back used equipment to the tune of about, rough numbers, 100,000. So would we be entertaining, or maybe this isn't even a conversation for today, would we be entertaining the possibility of $100,000 going to the lid, or $200,000 going to the lid?
Their request is 200,000,
Okay, very good.
but
And maybe this is,
That's part of the discussion that we'll have at the planning session.
thank you.
And we'll bring this up, if they want to come or whatever, we'll bring this up at our next planning session,
Okay.
which is not next week, it's the following week,
Yep.
correct?
Well, and again, if schedules allow, I'll throw it out to them, and
Yeah,
whether it's
yeah,
April yet or May or whatever it might be.
Okay,
All right.
we will move on.
I just wanted to give you guys an update, and Beth's on the call too if she needs to jump in, about Paycom and what's happening with that. We have a tight turnaround time, and wanted to talk with you guys about you had indicated, I'm just getting this implementation schedule up. You had indicated wanting to approve ultimately project to move forward. And just kind of want to get your thoughts about timelines for that and when that makes sense. We've been working with them with data collection and getting information to be able to build the system to work with Morrison County. And then from there, the work that gets done is pretty tight in terms of the resources that are put into making this happen, including involving the organization in doing trainings and doing different management versus end user trainings when it comes to data collections or data entries and all of those things. And so as we're moving forward in the next 4 to 6 weeks, there's significant investment made, and just kind of wondering from there isn't the intent of everything moving forward is to make this work and to make this happen. So from that, I guess, kind of getting your thoughts on when you think you want to see that approval, or how you want to be involved in that based upon the direction that you provided. As you can see, the goal right now is mid-June to have the actual payroll part of this system functioning and making everything work. So, as far as a time off to, like a end date, we're kind of going in with everything, assuming that we're going to move forward with it because of the time investment involved in that based upon the approval or the direction that was provided. And so just wanted some thoughts if there was something else you guys could think of in terms of when you wanted to see that come back and how you want us to do that.
Okay, so can you please tell me what the $13,000 is getting us? Is that this
This
page right here?
project, yep, this implementation process.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but on that, you were gonna be able to tell us whether you thought this system would incorporate with us?
Yeah, but it's starting from this point forward to do that. Like, this is what the intent is of that. So the effort that's being put forward is going to be 100% to work to make this happen, come flipping a switch in June for that payroll process. So if you want it right before then, but just know there's gonna be that effort put forward to do that, from this point on, with the assumption that we're going to go live with it because of the work that's gonna be done in the next 6 weeks or so.
Yep, and if there was something within that 6 weeks that didn't look like it was gonna work for us, that's when we would opt out.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yep.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions on that, or?
And Mr. Chair, I don't know if Beth has anything to add, if she's concentrating on this or not, but she'll jump in if she does, I would imagine.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here.
Oh, I can hardly hear you, Beth. Hold on a second. Let me see.
Let me check my speaker.
Try it now.
How about now? Can
Yes.
you hear me okay?
Better, yes.
Okay. So, kind of just circling back, on what Deb was saying about the implementation timeline, that it's moving relatively quickly. So to start the communications with managers and staff and not have them be surprised,
Can you guys understand?
Hey, Beth, why don't you come in here, because we can't understand you.
Okay, I'll be right there.
Yeah, if you would, because I can't understand
Yep.
what he's saying. Yep.
What?
It's not like she's on a roller coaster or something,
I don't think she is.
fishing.
She's in the office, just trying to do 2 things at once. Yeah, with all of this, there's been a significant amount of work from Amy's office in pulling data and trying to figure out how to pull data from the system. And then,
You came through the back door.
Okay, good morning.
Morning, Beth.
Well, as I was saying, just to kind of piggyback on what Deb was saying about the implementation, things are moving relatively fast as far as the data collection, but in order to communicate with managers and department heads and staff, to get training scheduled to move forward, we're looking at a really tight turnaround time. So I'm thinking like the next 6 weeks is when our ideal first check date would be. So, I mean, there's a lot of prepping and there's a lot of communication that needs to happen. And so in order to move forward, I think we're not really sure what the board's wishes were on that approval process to keep that moving, so.
So this implementation thing, there isn't a solid end.
It's a process. It's a process. So in identifying and approving that to enter into that, really the goal of all of that is to move forward, is to, okay, now we're kicked in gear and now we're going to data convert, we're going to collect, we're going to put in all of that effort to make this system work with our organization. That's what that does. That's why when we were talking about it, we're kind of saying, okay, we'll bring another approval, but when do you want that is really the question. Because all effort right now is being put towards making it happen and making it work. And so with that comes significant communication out and significant work to make that happen. But just kind of wondering where within that you want to put that approval component in
Chair,
place?
I kind of resent Deb keep on saying approval, approval. When I made this here, that we were gonna check and see if it was, and then you come back and whether we, the board, has to make that decision. It wasn't that we were gonna approve it or not approve it. That's my impression, that let's see if we can implement it. Then if you can't, then, at that time, we would decide whether we approve it or not. That's what my point is.
But I think that's what she did say.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that.
Yeah, that was my
The way I interpreted that when we did that, this $13,000 got us to a point, and I agree with Randy even, at some point in that process, if it didn't look like it, we would be able to implement that here, then we would stop it, you know? And if it looks like everything will go through, then I think what you're saying is at this date, we need to approve to continue on with this.
Right.
Am I understanding this correctly?
That's my understanding. So as far as, you know, moving forward and getting the implementation and to keep the wheels moving essentially, I mean, we need to communicate to staff and, you know, the county family as how we're moving forward and what that means for them and their schedules coming up with training and implementation to get them on the system and utilizing it. So that's,
We just wanted to make sure
Make
you
sure
guys
that-
were on board and understood that that's what was happening, and if there was a different point in time or when you wanted to address that again, to formally say that's okay, which I understood it as being, you're okay moving forward, that's kind of that component you had indicated you wanted to have. And so we're just
Yeah.
asking, what does that look like to you, and what do you want us to do?
I think, Mr. Chair, I think you guys know when that is.
Okay.
I mean, we don't know when, you know, if the implementation phase is showing that it'll work. And when you guys see that it's, the implementation phase is working, you're getting the information that you need, then you can bring it forward to us, and, I mean, that's the way I see it.
Yep.
I mean, I'd hate to say on June 1st, I want you to bring it to me and you're not ready, or it's too late.
Okay.
I think, I would leave it up to you guys to know when that implementation phase is completed,
Okay.
or the information within the implementation phase that you need is completed.
Commissioner Blaine?
So, Mr. Chair, in respect to Commissioner Lemire, as I recall, the request for a final approval on this would be brought to the board once that the $13,000 investment we made was to finish vetting whether or not this system would integrate with all of the affected systems within the organization. So if we're looking at when we have that brought back to the board for approval to move forward past the $13,000 investment, I believe it to be when staff can come back to the board and assure us that we can utilize this system throughout the county, and it will do all the things that we've been told or led to believe that it will do. And so that's when I will be ready to have a final approval on this. And maybe that's where
That's the
my
way-
colleague was
Yeah.
saying, okay.
I think we're saying the same thing. It's just that I don't know when that information to know that the implementation phase will work. I don't know when that will be. And that's kind of what you're asking of us?
Yep, and just letting you know that this is how this is gonna look, is that we're going to be working towards an active and successful implementation. And so we will be reaching out to the organization about when there's trainings that are mandatory, when we're going to involve everybody to really learn how to make this system work. That's what this all includes. And so wanting just to make sure we're on the same page and we didn't, and nobody was misunderstanding what we were doing or if you wanted something different, but all kind of effort is going to be placed into really taking the next 6 weeks and very much moving towards making this successful. And so that means a lot of time and effort being put into training and putting into interface success, putting into data collection, all of that. And so just wanted to let you know those communications will go out, and I didn't want to not touch base with you to say, oh, was I misunderstanding on when you wanted to see that again, or when you wanted to, what part of this process you wanted to make sure that you were giving that, what you had asked for, which was some type of approval before we go live. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, so when we come to that point in time, I'm hoping that we'll also have department heads or staff that have utilization of this, direct utilization of this in their departments, that will also be here to basically acknowledge to us that they understand and they agree that, or concur that basically all the bugs have been worked out of this, and that we're okay to move forward. Because because I'm not the one utilizing this system, and it's not just in one department that's utilizing this system, so I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to hear from those departments that will be a part of this new system going forward, and that there's a concurrence and comfort moving forward with that.
Who does use this system? Isn't this more payroll?
oh, it's everybody. in terms
Everybody.
of-
It's everybody
This
in
is
the
Every
our-
single
So
employee.
to answer his question, do all department heads involved in this, or is it, I think at one time we were talking Steve Bukowski over at the other place.
Or not.
He's probably the only one that won't be.
He won't be, okay.
Just for time entry, but as far as like where you'll utilize the system.
utilize the
You'll
system.
utilize it to view your pay stub. You'll utilize it to view all of your employment documents when it comes to W-4s and things of that nature. This is something that everybody in the organization utilizes. The supervisors will utilize it for time management tools and scheduling. Staff will utilize it for numerous components. So Commissioner Blaine's point in terms of every new system has a learning curve, but I agree with you in terms of making sure that it's working for everybody and knowing that we have to get used to it and make sure it is doing what it is we need it to do is very important. And so that makes sense. But yep, everybody will.
Okay, so you can do that. You can bring in department heads and stuff, and they can talk about the system and stuff, or somewhat, or not, or?
So once we get into this implementation and we're meeting with department heads, each unit essentially is a little different in how they want to manage their people and their time and the different systems and programs that they use. And so we would like to have a conversation with them about how they would like to see, their departments, rolled out essentially as far as set up behind the scenes and what employees have access to and the different parameters and things like that. So to some extent, on the admin side of it, they would definitely be a part of that conversation. And, depending upon how fast we can roll that out too, I know they're pretty anxious to get started and get moving on it, so.
Okay, just so I get clarified again, I guess what we're asking here, and tell me if I'm wrong, we're asking that you're presenting this to department heads, you're showing them what it'll do, what it won't do. So at some point in time, they come in and they tell us, yes, we feel this system will work for us, and it'll benefit us. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Is that what the board's saying? Typically, with the approval of moving forward and implementing a product is what you do. We move forward to again, the goal of this whole initial phase is to make it work. And so there's no intent to say it doesn't. If we find at a point there isn't the ability to make it work, then we'll certainly let you know that and not move forward with it, because we want it to work just as much as you want it to work. But the whole idea is making it happen and making it come to fruition, because that's why we're gonna put in the work we're gonna put in to do it. And so that's the intent, is for success, and I think that's everybody's goal and intent for that. We just wanna make sure that occurs, so.
And to be fair, when we talk about technology, to have all the bugs worked out will never happen, because I'm sure there's bugs in here. There's bugs in here all the time that you're trying to change. I mean, every time we have a meeting, we've got to send somebody down and change something on technology, so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that ultimately that is our goal, that is our plan, to make sure that it's up and running and, staff and department heads feel comfortable working in the system. I think that, you're going to have to use the system to find out what works and what doesn't work. You're going to have, time set aside to address specific things within specific departments. And so I think you're really not going to know what those may be until you're in the system working and be like, hey, you know what, I want to change this, or I want to do that, or can this work different? And so by implementing that, essentially that's what you're doing. You're finding out the best strategy and what works best for each unit.
So going back to the discussion that we had a month or so ago about the $13,000, I was under the impression that when we went forward with the $13,000 investment I thought that was to vet the system and to make sure that this would work. Kind of what you're saying now is no, we're not going to understand whether or not this will work until we actually fully implement it. And so what I'm wondering is, so does full implementation begin in this $13,000 investment, or because that's what the board has authorized for investment into the system so far is the 13,000. And so I'm just trying to make sure that we're clear, or at least that I'm clear in understanding, because it's kind of what I'm interpreting you saying is that, no, we won't know whether or not this will work in all these departments and that until we fully implement it. And if we go to full implementation, will that happen in this time frame that we've invested $13,000 in? I guess is the way I'm saying that, or is what I mean.
So sure, to address that, what was brought forward in the RBA was the 13 grand was for the implementation and training of the Paycom system. I have no doubt that this system is going to work. Are there going to be things that need additional attention? Probably. I think that to say that it's not going to, or there's not going to be workarounds is, I think, unfair, but I feel like I'm 100% confident that the system is going to work. We're putting in a lot of work into making sure that happens. I think that the team has been great to work with. They obviously know their business way better than I do. I don't work for them. They have their own company. I just know the work that we do here. And I'm fully confident in our team that we can do this. And I guess I'm not sure where the hangup is as far as why the feeling is that this wouldn't work on the behalf of the board. So
If I may
I'm
interrupt,
confused
I'm
on
good
that
at that, Mr.
aspect.
Beth, again, it's not so much where the, and this is my opinion, whether it's gonna work or not. If the administration wants it to work, and, this is something that they want, but yet, since Amy just came in, I'm gonna use you as an example. Maybe it's not working for Amy, but then the administration says, you know what, no, you're gonna have to learn this. Or I go talk to, sheriff's department or up at the county attorney, and they don't want this because it's not working, and it's kind of, the nasty word is being jammed down their throats just because they don't want it, and I know that's not gonna happen. But that's where I looked at that, just because one department is looking to get this, maybe it's not gonna work just like it doesn't work at the Public Works. And that's what my concern is, that we do vet this to make sure that everybody's on board, because if I go in a week or two and I start talking to department heads and I'll say, what do you think of the system that they're doing? Well, it's got a lot of questions. I wanna know that going
Right.
forward.
So in my response to that would be that we've been working on this project for the last few years, and we've had multiple conversations with our department heads. We've done demos, we've talked about conceptually, the needs that we are lacking with our current systems that we have. And they've all been on board, and they've been in support of this. I think, they're anxious to work into a system where they can have everything at their fingertips and to have the ability to manage their department, their people, in one site. And so this isn't new to them. This is something that we've been talking about for quite a while, even with the board, just more so recently. And so if I didn't have their full support, this wouldn't have even made it this far. And so to find a system that is compatible with us, that is, that is a good fit for us, that isn't all the bells and whistles and isn't offering everything that we need, I think is really what we are all looking for. And this is the system that, a committee has vetted and presented to the board, which has the support of the department heads. So to say that it's not going to work or they're not going to be happy with it, we're going to absolutely make sure that their expectations are met.
And that's what my question is that make sure their expectations are
Yep,
being met before
absolutely.
we say we're gonna approve it or not approve it, and that's what I thought the $13,000 was for, because now we're paying Paycom to come in and show us the true product, rather than a year ago or 2 years ago, where, yeah, what do you think of this, what do you think of this? Because now, I'm hoping Paycom is gonna make adjustments to our county how they need it, not, what they feel, and that's where I think getting everyone involved before I would even look at it, and that was my interpretation, that I understand that we brought this up a year or two, whatever it is, but make sure the whole county as a whole is on board.
Mr.
And that's
Chair.
all I'm asking.
That's what this process is doing. That's what we just wanted to make sure, just so everybody knows, we're involving everybody. We're gonna be setting training dates. We're going to be working with figuring out how to configure for each department to make it work for them. That's what this involvement, or that's what this process is.
Mr. Chair. So, Beth, you said the $13,000 was for the implementation of Paycom, is that correct?
Implementation and training,
Of just Paycom?
correct.
So, so my interpretation of that is that's something that, is that part of the payroll part of that takes place only in the admin department? Or is this something that reaches into all the departments within the county?
All the departments within the county, because we're going to be using that system for time entry and for pay stub, which feeds into that payroll system.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that for me. So I just want to get back, Mr. Chair, to the actual original question of which was, as far as I remember now, that we were wondering when should this be brought to the board for approval? And I think we kind of established kind of what we were expecting. But so we know as a board, so at that point in time, when there is approval given, will that then unlock that, the remaining cost then? Because this is $100,000+ investment by the county. And so far, we've approved $13,000 investment into looking into this. So then, at that point in time, we then be starting that proverbial payment clock to Paycom or to that company. Is that correct?
Sure, so I can clarify that. So once the first check date is when that, thank you, straining my eyes to see that. On that first check date of 6/14, when we run that first payroll on that system, is going to start that per pay period fee. So we're not paying that 100 grand up front. We're paying each pay period as we move throughout the year. So yes, that is what would trigger that, is your approval to move forward.
So at this time, would the board expect to see any other incurrence of cost outside of the $13,000 to that point on June 14th, where we would start making that bi-monthly payment to
Payment,
pay?
sure. I'm not expecting any.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody got any other questions? If not, proceed with what you're doing and bring it forth to us when you think you've got the questions answered. and-
Yep, I just wanted to let you know that communication will be going out and that there wasn't any different expectation than that, and so we were on the same page with what we're doing, because I know Amy's working a lot with pulling data from our current system to get that organized and put together, a tremendous amount. Beth's been working a ton, so we just wanted to make sure that once we start reaching out to the organizations, you included on training on how to use it and all that, that's part of this process, so we're on the same page.
So, sure, and just to kind of clarify too, to give you a better understanding of who's all involved, you know, Amy has been a tremendous asset. We've been working very closely with her. She's been helping us with very many aspects of this implementation. Steve Messerschmidt has also been involved in our meetings, and then also Melissa and Deb and myself have been involved. And so we'll be bringing in additional people as needed, but I just wanted to give praise to Amy and the time that she's dedicated to us and her assistance in her technology realm. So thank you. It's been extremely helpful, so.
Okay, thank you. You got enough information?
I think so, I just wanted to touch base on that, and I think that's all I have. Is there anybody waiting on anything else from me?
Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm glad Amy showed up. This know before, what is this know before? Have I done that know before? I don't know if you guys know what that.
Before?
Yes. Previously, IT or the organization had invested in what's called SAN, Security Awareness Training. And I think it was last year or the year before, we switched over to a vendor called KnowBe4. That is how we push out our annual cybersecurity training program. So that's just to bring awareness to employees, which includes you guys, on how to be safe while you're out on the web. We push it out, typically we push it out once a year. This year, we're pushing it out every quarter, short little videos versus a one-time, 1 hour video, so it's a little more real-time and not so time-intensive.
Because it looked like, you know, we always get this
Yes.
cyber, and that's why I
We laugh about
text
that.
Amy and I go, what is this dang thing? I'm getting a virus here.
Yep, no, we actually got a lot of questions because it is somewhat new. It's only been used, I think, once or twice throughout the county, KnowBe4. We did put out an intranet posting to the organization to let people know that it's coming, but it goes against everything we talk about. Don't click a link in an email. I get it, but it still has to
All
happen.
right, so I can blame you for scaring me that I got a
Yes,
virus.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
exactly.
Mr. Chair, I like it, Amy. It was
Thank you.
very, very, I liked it. It was
Yes.
very good.
Yep, thank you.
Hey, does anybody have anything else? If not, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Motion
Thank you,
and a
gentlemen.
second to do
Oh.
that, or?
Oh, that's right, this is a board meeting. I need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? I kept thinking we're in a planning session.